Hello, it's Melinda from Alexis and Melinda's Art Space. Today I am bringing you a art journal page and it's a mission inspiration. So what I was just doing there was fiddling with some texture paste and I didn't realise my big jar of texture paste had dried up, so I went for my little jar. I find with texture paste when the jar gets about half full or down to even a third, the air in the jar dries out, and that was horrible. That big jar was Marie and it was horrible to begin with. I didn't like it. I was persisting trying to use it. So this little one is Deco Arts and it's very soft and smooth. I got it in a class kit quite a few years ago, so just trying to use it up. So while I'm doing that, I'm applying that with a credit card through a stencil. This is one of the stencils I designed and is in my store. You can't quite see it at the moment, but you'll see it in a minute. It's basically leaves. So mission inspiration, just quickly while that's drying off, if you haven't heard of it, it's an 8-step process and you follow the steps to create your art journal page. So the first step was add texture paste with a spatula. I did it with a credit card spatula thing. Second one was spritz or spray colours. I'm trying to read my own writing. So I'm using a variety of, I love how that printed, that is really cool. Using a variety of couple of Lindy stamp gangs that are old. Everything's old. I guess you could say old. And a green ink spray. And you can see now how the leaves have popped out on the page and you can see them. I did, before I started with the texture paste, I did add a clear coat of gesso onto my page because I knew I wanted to spray. This is in an altered book. I should have started with that. I'm working in an altered book, so I did clear coat gesso on the page first. It just gives it a barrier between the pages, but you can still see the text behind it, which I like. I like working in books. So just drying off those prints that I took off. They're really cool. Can't wait to use those. With the excess ink. So just drying up all that ink. So yeah, clear gesso to start with, and the inks work better on that. So just adding some paper behind, because I know I'm going to spray again and I didn't want to cover. Oh, I wanted to drip this time. So step 3 was add drips or splatters. So I'm just taking the ink out of the container and dropping it onto the top, and then I'm going to spray it with water and make it drip down. Just popped my little tub of texture paste behind the book, just so it's like an easel on an angle, so the drips drip down. So I like that effect. I like mission inspiration. It gives you like an 8-step recipe for your page. I call it like a recipe because it is open to interpretation, and that's what I do with recipes. They're a guide. So if you don't have inks or sprays, substitute for what you do have. You don't have to go out and purchase what you need for the things. And most of them are general anyway. Most of the prompts are very general or can be interpreted. I love those drips. I love this page at a certain stage, and the stage is just about to come up. And then I didn't want to do anything with it. I thought, oh, that's just beautiful. I just want to leave it. That's the page there. And I thought, no, I'll just persist. I'll keep going. I really like the page in the end. So step 4 was add natural texture or fibre. So I already knew what I was going to use for the main focal element. I have some, you'll see them in a minute, some parrots on napkins. So here I'm just using some glue and some twine to make a twig. So an extension of the twig that's in the napkin for my add natural twine or texture. There's also suggested colours with mission inspiration this year, and it is moss, sunflower and rust. You don't have to use the colours. I probably used the moss colour with some of the greens, and there's 5 words you can incorporate or not incorporate. So there's earth, forest, elements, fossil and tropics. So you do have a lot of freedom within the framework of the mission inspiration recipe, as I call it. There is a Facebook, I'll link below. This is the napkin I was talking about. So I'll link the Facebook group below. Oh, excuse me, motorbike going past. I will link the Facebook below if you want to grab a list of the prompts. So just cutting out this image, I decided to cut it out with the white backing on, because I had a plan. I thought if I just took the top layer of the napkin, it would blend into the background too much. So I wanted the birds to sort of blend in but not get lost. So I had this idea, and it did work out quite well. I cut out the napkin with the white backing attached So then when I separated them, I had the white backing the same size as the piece I was going to put up top, if you get that. I hope you get that. And I was tracing around the border because I had plans for the border too, using my favourite matte gel medium. Oh, I'm in love with that stuff. If only it wasn't so expensive. So that white piece of napkin there you can see is the backing that I cut out as well. So I'm going to glue that down first because I do want my birds to stand out a little but not a lot, if that makes sense. Because if you've ever used napkins and you add wet glue to it, it almost becomes transparent. And I didn't want it to be too transparent. Just make sure you got it the right way around. So I was just umming and ahhing with that and umming and ahhing with positioning as well. So you just have to be quite gentle when you're doing napkins. They can tear very, very easily. I was just lining up where it was going and I was happy with the placement. So I do put a coat of the matte gel medium under my napkin, and then with loads on my paintbrush, I start from the middle and start wetting the top of it with matte gel medium as well. I probably do use a little bit too much, but I like it to be saturated and stuck down. The thing is, if you do the 2 layers at once, which I could have done an option, you don't get the same effect. The layers can separate and come off because I've been there and done that before. So if you want to do this sort of trick when you want the napkin to be a bit more white, I could have went and Mod Podged it to a white sheet of paper and cut it out, but I thought that would be too white. So I decided to do this trick, and the white napkin I usually use for stamping on and doing other things with, so that's okay. So just try, and I do rip it in a couple of areas, but that's okay. It's a white napkin, and I make sure I put the branch, the continuation of that piece of rope that I put on under the branch, so it looks like it continues. So because I've already gone over the top of that white piece of napkin with matte gel medium, I can just lay my decorative napkin straight over the top. And as you can see, I haven't really fussy cut so much around the feathers or the leaves. I've sort of just done it around roughly, and it looks really cool because I know that border edge, I'm going to use the border off the napkin, and I know I'm going to cover up about 1 centimetre to 1.5 centimetres of the page anyway. Sometimes with Mission Inspiration, I have an idea of what I'm going to do before I start, and then I fit the steps in around my idea. This is an example of that page. I started with the napkin because it sort of fit in with the colours with the word tropic and that. So then I decided to use that napkin, and then that sort of gave me a jumping off point of what it was, and then I saw the border around the napkin, and the last step is at a border, so it sort of all fitted in. Other times I just start with step 1 and have no idea where I'm going, and then I get to a step that's a focal image, and then I go work out what I'm going to do. Bear with me one moment if you hear a noise. I'm just moving my laptop so I can bring my art journal page a bit closer. I find it handy, and that's a tip, if you're doing YouTube videos and you're doing a voiceover, I prefer to have my, oh, excuse me, trying not to sniffle. I've got a bit of a runny nose. I woke up this morning with a runny nose. It's got very cold in our town lately. We're in winter here in Australia. So getting back to it, while I'm just gluing my birdies on, I find it handy to have my art journal page, my scrapbook page, or whatever I'm voiceovering about right next to me. Because if you have ever edited videos, you see that you get, the screen is about 1/4 of the size of a laptop screen. And sometimes with my low vision, that I've mentioned quite a few times on the computer, I can't see the detail of what I was doing. And at least if the art journal page is open, it prompts me to what I did. I can sort of see the layers. So once I've got that napkin all wet on the top with the matte gel medium, just giving that a good old dry, and I put that aside to naturally dry as well. It just looks like I've got an area that I've got to fix up. Liquitex is my favourite brand, but certainly if you don't have Liquitex matte gel medium, because it is quite expensive here in Australia, I only ever do buy it when it's 40% off at Spotlight or Lincraft. You can use Mod Podge, you can use PVA glue if you're on a super tight budget, which I have done in the past. I do like the matte gel medium because it is matte, as it said in the title, but PVA glue, water it down a little, works as well. It ends up being a little shiny, but just personal preference. So just drying that off as well. I should have cut a bit more of the drying time out. And I don't know what flicking the heat gun makes a difference, but I tend to do that. I flick it. Maybe I'm not wanting to hold it in the one spot for quite a while. I have sped the video up 3 times, so maybe that's why it's flicking. So I'm really happy with that art journal page. I love some of them at the end. I don't love some of them at the end. It just depends. So what step are we up to? We are up to step, I'm trying to read off my phone, 5. Add a focal, no. Oh, I may have done these out of order. Whoopsie daisy. Add one or more focal images to step 5, which was the bird napkin. Then 6 was add illegible, I can't read today, I'm sorry. My brain's gone on holidays. We're technically on school holidays, so my brain has decided it doesn't want to work anymore. And add illegible handwriting and text. I think I may do that in the next clip. And then the next step after that, the 7, was add book text or paper shapes. So I stared at it and go, oh, what am I going to add? And then I had this new die I got from, this new steel wool die I got from Kaisercraft. Kaisercraft brand, I picked it up at Spotlight. Last time I was there really, really cheap. I think it cost me like $2.50. And I just recently picked up my Audi papers for this year, and they were a tropical theme. So I thought, great, I'll cut some flowers and some leaves with my old Cuttlebug. My poor Cuttlebug is, it would be, well, Alexis is 10 and a half, and it was older than her. So it'd be 11 or 12 years old. And I'm just wondering if this one, if I can catch myself, I'll see if I'm using half a plate. I have snapped, yeah, I am there. See the top plate? That is my C plate, because we're using the thin dies. And I actually snapped my C plate in half, and I'm looking to replace it. I just haven't yet. It works really well for all my dies, except for one. It's too big to go through, but I'm persisting. I will buy one eventually. I tried to sticky tape the C plate back together, and that didn't work too well. So there's a tip. If you snap one of your plates in half, don't try to sticky tape it back together because it doesn't work. Oh. And you're probably wondering how I snapped it. I was making a shake card, so I thought I'd cut the foam and the top piece of paper at the one time. But I thought instead of using regular paper, I'm going to use a lovely piece of bumpy handmade paper. I worked out bumpy handmade paper and foam, kids for craft foam for a shaker card, going through at the one time to save time, snaps your C plate. So don't do that. It cuts the foam beautifully, but yeah, don't try to cut bumpy handmade paper and foam at the same time. Learned the hard way. So now I cut all my shapes, and I'm actually using, there's a hibiscus flower and there is a leaf. The hibiscus flower, I'm using 2 different colours, and I'm using the centre of one colour and the outside of another colour just to give it some more interest, and just wanting to dot those around the edge. Also keeping in mind that my border is going on my page, and actually it's probably about 1 inch. Yeah, if I look at it now, it's about 1 inch. So I'm covering up most of the die cuts, but that's okay. I wanted the idea I had behind, and sometimes I have crazy ideas behind my art journal pages. The border was a window, and you're looking out through the window out into the forest. That was the idea behind mine. You'll see it in a minute when it comes up. So I did stick these right to the edge, which I probably could have brought them in a bit and you would have still seen them, but oh well. Sometimes I do things and then regret it later, but once you've stuck it down, it's stuck down. So while I'm sticking stuff down with my matte gel medium, I will say a welcome to all my new subbies. Thank you for coming and sharing some of your time with me. I do a huge variety of stuff. My 10-year-old daughter and I sort of share the channel. She hasn't been as active lately, being busy with schoolwork. But often we do videos together, and now we're on school holidays, we'll probably do some videos together as well. We often do videos together. We do art journaling, we do swaps, I show what I make for swaps, and then I show what I get for swaps. I love getting happy mail. I love doing shopping, trying not to shop, trying to use up. I do some empty videos occasionally, showing you empty videos, and they are also a product review. So I tell you if I like the product, if I repurchase it, if I don't. especially for the Aussies, because I find when I first started watching YouTube a couple of years ago, I would look at Michaels hauls, which is we don't have here in Australia. We don't have the brand Michaels. We have an equivalent. I won't say equivalent because it's not. We have a like store which is called Spotlight, and an even worse one which is called Lincraft, which is like your department store for your craft and your material and all that. But ours is not as cheap as yours, as Michaels, and the quality and the range is just not there. And now I've forgotten what I was saying. Why was I talking about Michaels? Oh, for Aussies, for hauls. Sorry, off on a tangent and forgot where I was. Yes. So I'm trying to do a bit more hauling for Aussies, and I like to shop anyway, and a bit more product review, because I find if I watch an American video and I really like a product, I see I can't get it in Australia, or I get it and it's prohibitively expensive, like this Liquitex Matte Gel Medium. That little jar, I believe, full price is $22 to $25. I only ever buy them when they're 40% off, when they're just over $10, because I think that's reasonable. And even then, I go through it. If I'm crafting a lot, I could go through it in a month, which means I've done quite a few journal pages. But this particular page will take possibly quite a lot of the matte gel medium, because there is a lot of gluing. But I love the result, and I'll sit there and glue paper all day. As I said, you could use Mod Podge, and I do pick up Mod Podge on special occasionally. Got some really yucky stuff to use up. This is my illegible handwriting that I went back and did because I did the steps out of order, so just scribbling around. I don't even know what I was scribbling. I think I might have been just scribbling. So yeah, you can pick up Mod Podge, you can use PVA glue, so you don't need to use expensive products. Because I believe art journaling should be for everyone, and should be affordable for everyone as well. So you can certainly do it on a super, super tight budget, or you can be like me and splurge every now and again. What I tend to do when Lincraft or Spotlight have their 40% off sales, Lincraft sort of do them, I've noticed every about 3 months it's been a pattern. Usually Christmas, Boxing Day, they have one for a few days. I noticed Easter this year, and I've noticed again at the end of financial year. So approximately every 3 months. So I will go in and buy 3 months worth of glue. I'll buy 3 or 4 pots of the glue. And I don't have to this June because I have several from April I haven't used, because I'm trying to use up all my other stuff. And I try to use my Liquitex Matte Gel Medium as a last resort, because I like it so much, I want it to last. So I tend to stock up that way, and if you've got the little bit of extra money, it's a great way to save money. We don't have coupons in Australia like Michaels, where you can go in on a weekly basis and get a product 40% off. We don't have things like that. I wish we did. Oh my god, I wish I could coupon like you guys in America for food and art supplies. That would be awesome. Okay, so I decided to do the same thing, and this is a bit of a lengthy process, and I do cut some of it out. The same thing with the border as I did with the napkin. I cut the border with the white backing on it out of the napkin, on it out. Seriously, I think I'm going to have to go back to school and learn some better words for my voiceover videos. So adding the white to the border all around my page, and then I'll go back and add the decorative colour piece. Just because I didn't want the border to fade too much into the background, I wanted it to stand out but not stand out too much. So I wanted that in between tone, if you know what I mean. So again, I could have stuck the border or ironed it. You can iron napkins onto cardstock with a piece of Glad wrap or cling film. I think you use in America, like the stuff you use in the kitchen. It acts as a glue when you heat it up, and that's a really cool way of getting a napkin flat. So I could have done that, but I decided to do it this way. You can play with napkins in so many ways. I love them. But again, they're quite hard to find here in Australia. I'm off on a tangent again. Well, I'm just gluing, so I really don't have to explain what I'm doing. I'm gluing paper to paper. Finding nice, decent napkins here in Australia has becoming increasingly hard. I just don't. The shops that I used to get them from are just closing down. A lot of the cheap $2-ish shops. I just lost another one of those shops in my local local shopping centre. It has closed down because they're just not taking. It moved from the centre of town out to a suburb to the shopping centre and lasted possibly 18 months, I think it was there. And then they've decided to close because they're just not turning over what they need to be. And rent in that shopping centre is extraordinarily expensive as well. I've looked into it. And yeah, it's extraordinarily expensive. So back to gluing. now I'm gluing the border. And what I did, because the napkin is square and my book is square, I started in the corner with a corner because the pattern sort of ran around the corner. And then I sort of joined it midway through. And you can't really, apart from one bit I whoopsied, one bit I didn't line up correctly, you can't really tell where the border has been joined, which is what I'm wanting to do. So here I've come down right down to nearly the end, and I add another piece over the top and overlap it by a little bit and try to match up the pattern. And I used nearly all of the napkin. I think I had about a piece that was about 5 centimeters left from the border, and I used the rest of it all around my journal. I've not come across a lot of the napkins with borders on them, so that was something different that I saw. And even watching American Happy Mail, American Haul videos, I don't see a lot of napkins with the borders. I've rambled a lot in this video. I do apologise. I do love this page. It's one of my favourites. I love the text in the background. I've got some still photos coming up at the end for you. I'll also pop a link to Mike Deacon. He was the one that originated Mission Inspiration. I think it's been running 3 years. I think this is the 3rd year it's running. Could be the 4th year. No, I think it's the 3rd year. And I've sort of done most of them within the 3 years. Alexis has done quite a few as well. I like having the challenge of having the recipe. It gives me a bit of direction with my art journal page. I find sometimes I want to create something, but I sort of want something to prompt me or follow me, but sometimes I just don't know what to do. So if you're having that sort of feelings with your art journal, you're wanting something different, you're wanting something to challenge you, look up Mission Inspiration, go through the old prompts, they're all on the Facebook group, and interpret them or change them if you don't have the particular materials. But as you see, most of them are quite vague, so you can interpret them how you want. I will leave you there. Thank you for watching, and do all those things. I don't like to self-promote. Here are some still photos of the end. It's hard to get it with the lighting. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you wish. I love reading the comments, and I do reply to them. If it's not so quickly, it is eventually. Things always get done eventually in my household. I'll see you later. Bye for now.